Hello all, welcome to the Rails Board meeting. This is Friday, June 20th, 2025. I am Renee Leyva, President of the Rails Board. I call this meeting to order at 1 o'clock. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Monica Caldecott. Jean Carroll. Here. Jennifer Cutshall. Gwen Gregory. Here. Diane Hollister. Here. Jennifer Hovanek. Here. Amanda Kowalski. Here. Renee Leyva.
Here.
Julie Milivek. Here. Emily Porter. Here. Carolyn Sennett. Here. Alex Vancina. Karen Voidick. Here. Catherine Yanikowski. Here. We have a forum.
Awesome, thank you. We will handle guests and public comments at the same time. Let's start with guests in Burr Ridge.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Sharon Swanson, Rails.
Grant Halter, Rails.
Kate Nehoff, Rails. Ann Slaughter, Rails.
Dan Bostrom, Rails.
Joe Philippek, Rails.
Emily Feister. Bailey. Rails.
Lauren Nemeth, Rails.
Done.
Megan Gove, Talcott Free Library.
Okay, are there public comments in Burr Ridge?
We do have one more guest, Tom Stagg.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah. Are there public comments in Burr Ridge? All right, now to East Peoria. Are there guests in East Peoria by any chance? No, is that a? Man, that's that's very gloomy. All right, good. At least we know that we're not spending money on electricity. Obviously, there's no public comments there, so thank you, Emily. Will you read the names of the guests via Zoom?
Yes, we have Greg McCormick from the Illinois State Library, Jessica Siva from Rails, and we also have Ryan Hebel Rails and Gallant 11 Rails.
And then are any public comments from anyone that's joining us through Zoom? All righty then. Did we receive any public comments via email, Emily?
We have not.
Amazing. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We have the adoption of the agenda, the Rails Board minutes of May 23rd, 2025 regular meeting. And then we also have the Rails Board minutes of May 23rd, 2025 closed session meeting and the approval of the disbursements of May 2025. Does anyone wish to move any item to the regular agenda for further discussion? Silence is key. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved, Julie.
Second, Karen.
Thank you, Julie and Karen. Emily, will you please call roll?
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Julie Milivek.
Yes.
Emily Porter.
Yes.
Carolyn Sennett.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voidick.
Yes.
Catherine Yanikowski.
Yes.
And Renee Leyva.
Yes. All right, let's move into the Rails financial report with the amazing Sharon Swanson. Hello, Sharon.
Well, thank you, Renee, and hello to you too, and hello to everyone this afternoon. So, the May 31st general fund unassigned cash and investment balance was approximately 26.5 million as of the end of May. This would fund 22.4 months of budgeted fiscal year 2025 operations. General fund revenues through May were a little over $17 million, and these are approximately 0.6 million below budget. We switched this month because our budget actually caught up to the receipt of our APC grant, the grant payments that we received, because we received the federal portion a little bit early. So we had below budget reimbursement revenues from the selection of EBSCO as the vendor for the statewide database program. And we also had less than anticipated fuel surcharges for our ILDS delivery services early due to lower than anticipated fuel prices through May of this year. And recently fuel prices have been hovering around $3 per gallon. And as well as the elimination of an open RSA position, which lowered the amount that RSA reimburses Rails for our support service cost. These below budget revenues were partially offset by above budget investment income. Since their December meeting, the Federal Reserve has held interest rates between 4.25 and 4.5%. And with remaining uncertainty around tariffs and their efforts to really concentrate on controlling inflation and the recent CPI index report from May showing a 1% increase in that index, they're staying focused and they're meeting this week. They kept the target borrowing rate the same between the 4.25 and 4.5%. And I would expect them to remain very conservative in that area and keep focusing on inflation. Rails was awarded a total of $213,625 of unbudgeted special grant funding to support the ongoing development and enhancement of L2, as well as the special, the World Language Cataloging Services Program. So through May, we have recorded $130,717 in revenues and expenditures for these grant-supported programs, and we anticipate, just looking at where we're at this point, that we'll spend down most, if not all, of these grant funds for fiscal year 2025. Rails' general fund expenditures through May were a little over 14.15 million, and these are approximately 1.9 million below budget. And it's the same pattern as we've had over the past couple of months. We had below budget library materials expenditures from that EBSCO group purchase because the expenditures completely offset the revenues for that activity. We also have below budget contractual services expenditures from that change in our contract with our delivery outsourcing vendor, CTL, to remove sorting services and bring those sorting services back in-house. We have also had favorable gas prices, as I've mentioned, through May, which affects those fuel surcharges that our delivery outsourcing vendor charges us. And we also have the normal week's delay in receiving and paying that outsourcing vendor. We received no applications for the first round of our cataloging membership grants for libraries to join LSAPs, but during the second round, we received requests and we have awarded $114,690 of the $140,000 that we had budgeted. And these grant payments to our members will be reflected in the June reports, which are presented to the board in July. So that's great news, and all projects that we had anticipated are proceeding, albeit at lower costs than were originally anticipated. We also had below budget vehicle expenditures. Fuel prices are remaining at that average of $3 per gallon. And of course, this has changed slightly with the very recent conflict in the Middle East. And the last report that I saw for the Midwest region, our gas prices have increased 6 cents per gallon as of a couple of days ago. So if the conflict does continue or escalates, I would expect those prices to keep increasing. We've also had less of a need for repairs and maintenance due to the many delivery vehicle replacements that we've done over the past year and a half. But we are starting to see those repairs come a little bit earlier on these newer vehicles than we did on our older vehicles. So the downward trend of repair costs may not be quite as dramatic as we had hoped for. And we also have below budget travel expenditures from scheduling conflicts for some staff that had planned to attend conferences, but could not, as well as normal delays between staff submitting reimbursement requests for those conferences and their actual attendance. We had less than anticipated travel for the board for the July board orientation. And we also canceled the planned joint systems board meeting, which we had budgeted for. The ALA conference is at the end of June, as everyone knows, and that was the bulk of our out-of-state travel that we had budgeted for. So I would expect that account to reach much closer to budget in June. We also have below budget professional services expenditures, mostly from consulting. We had timing differences between budget and actual consulting expenditures, and we also had several projects that were accomplished in-house by staff versus hiring an outside consultant, including major additions to the Find More Illinois program that would require an outside consultant, consulting costs to support RSA's move towards staffing independence, and cost to guide Rails through the succession planning process, which was accomplished this year. We also had consulting projects that came in lower than anticipated for cost. Our EDI consulting, HR source memberships for Rails member libraries, as well as the FOIA OMA hotline services that are billed to Rails based on member usage of that service. And we also have below budget personnel expenditures. We had lower than anticipated workers' compensation insurance premiums from adjustments for lower claims experience across the Lyra Insurance Cooperative. We also had normal delays in filling new positions that were added for fiscal year 2025. Both buildings and grounds expenditures, as well as delivery supplies, are above budget. This is due to the moving of the sorting operation back in-house, from CTL back in-house. During May, Rails paid for the first of 2 bin orders, to replace broken delivery bins that were originally placed into service between 8 and 10 years ago. So they last a long time, but they had gotten to the point where we needed to replace them. And that was all that I had for May. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I said or maybe didn't say?
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon. Really appreciate it, you being here. If there are no any further questions or concerns, let's move on. Next is reports. I never have a report, I just have a statement. Uh, So I just want to say, it was my honor to serve as the Rails president for this fiscal year and look forward to the amazing things our talented Rails staff will come out with next. To the board, please make sure to share with your colleagues what Rails does and can do to better their own services and the amazing continuing education workshops offerings to their trustees and library staff. The marketing team has done a phenomenal job and produced so many materials that you can bring into your own board. If you need copies, do email Dan specifically right there. Yes. I told myself I will call out Dan at least one time every meeting, so this is my one time. But do reach out to Dan's or at least the communications team. They will most definitely print out or provide you with any of the digital materials or guide you into the website. The website is filled with so much love and information, you might get lost. So you definitely could reach out. But again, I just want to thank everyone. And specifically all the Rail staff, they're amazing. Do get to know them. They're awesome individuals and human beings, and just astonished as to how much they accomplish within just in the building. So just grateful just to be in this position and just being able to sit like next to Sharon or knowing all the technology people. Thank you again. All right, that's it. So the next thing we're gonna have is the Rails board committee reports. Are there any additions or questions on the committee reports included in this packet?
I have a report.
All right.
We will have a complete update from the nominating committee on the election results a little bit later on the agenda. But at this time, I'd like to recognize our outgoing board members, Julie Milovic, Renee Leva, and Diane Hollister. We do have some plaques for you, so if you'd join me at the front of the room here.
They have the plaques.
You have Rails for your dedication to system and your tireless advocacy.
We have to wait a minute.
Oh, it's that.
Well, I second what Renee said about how wonderful the Rails staff is. They make it such a pleasure to work on the Rails board, and finding out more at each board meeting about what Rails does. Each department has been really gratifying. And also, as we move forward, having all of the board development topics. Tom Stagg's here to give us a little board development today, but they have been so interesting and so valuable, I think. And I particularly want to give a shout out to Joe, because Joe came and helped my library out this month, talking about elected versus appointed boards, bringing both his experience as an Aurora Public Library trustee and as the Rails Associate Director. So thank you. You guys are all.
Thank you all for your service on the Rails board and advocacy for Illinois libraries more broadly. It's been a pleasure working with all of you, and we do have plaques for you in recognition of your service. And these read in sincere appreciation of your service to the Rails board.
Thank you.
Ola would be proud. So much from Ola.
Okay, hold on, stay there.
Did you get special instructions?
I did. Following them to a T. Okay, we're good, thank you.
Thank you.
Or-
Can I say something about the policy committee?
yes.
So as the vice president, I've been the chair of the policy committee for the last 2 years, and the policy committee has really done a lot of work, meeting every month and for an hour or an hour and a half, or even 2 hours, and going through a lot of policies. I'm sure that pretty soon there will be a whole revision of the employee handbook for everyone to look at. But the members of that really done a lot of work, and I very appreciated. So thank you. And now, and probably Catherine will take over that role and get to keep that moving forward.
I don't know how I'm gonna deal, how you one, but.
Well, it's really the rail staff are the ones that manage it all. So thanks again to them. Stacy's done a great job this past year of just managing all that flow of information.
Does anyone else have anything to add in regards to the committee? All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you, Gwen, for saying those words. Thank you, Alex. Moving on to Monica with the Rails report. Monica, you have the
Thank
floor.
you, Renee, and good afternoon to you all. I'm going to be a bit brief today, but I did want to take the opportunity first to acknowledge our own Emily Bailey, who you see at the end of the table here. I know you are aware this is Emily Bailey's last meeting with us here at the Rails Board. Over the years, we've received so many comments from people who have served on the Rails Board about how smoothly our meetings run, how much they understand the things that are happening, how good communication is. And that is because of the types of innovations and support that Emily has brought to Rails over many years. Personally, Emily has been an unbelievable support for me as I have transitioned into the role of executive director. Would not have been able to do it without her support and understanding of how we do things here at Rails. So I am always so grateful to her. But I wanted to make sure that you all had the opportunity to also acknowledge Emily's great service with Rails over the years. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay, here.
Still have her until July 11th.
You're gonna get emails from me. Are we?
In terms of the rest of the Rails report, I did share some updates, especially as they relate to the Institute of Museum and Library Services and other federal updates in your packet. I did want to share just a couple of things that have happened since this went out to you last week. The first is that on June 16th, the Government Accountability Office, or the GOA, released a report that determined that President Trump violated the 1974 Impoundment Control Act by withholding funds that were approved by Congress. It's sort of unclear what this report will mean in the context of some of the other things that are happening. But one potential issue is perhaps related to the ALA suit. You saw the update that I gave about the ALA suit, but on June 17th, there was an additional order from the federal judge who set up a schedule that means that additional oral arguments from ALA will not take place until at least October at the earliest. But that GAO report potentially strengthens the ALA case. So we're continuing to monitor that, and we will continue to share more as we know. It was also the end of the legislative season here in Illinois, and so we did update with some new laws, that most of which have not yet been signed by Governor Pritzker, but they're expected to be. And so we wanted to make sure that you had a chance to see those and review them. One that we know that a lot of questions will be received about is specifically about the opioid antagonist bill that's expected to begin on January 1st. There are still some questions sort of about how this will be moved forward by libraries, exactly what responsibilities will be in place. So we expect to work with Ansel Blink to provide a memo on this legislation once it is signed by Governor Pritzker. We're also working closely with ILA, who's very aware of the considerations around this, and they, of course, work very closely with our state legislature on these issues. So we will keep you posted as we move forward. I know Greg McCormick's on the call today, so I won't give a very detailed report on our last ISLAC meeting that we had in June, but it was a very good and robust discussion. And I will say that that group did continue to prioritize support of the systems in terms of things that they want to consider in any potential budget revision. So very pleased to hear that as well. And then finally, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the Rails board election in the past, but I did just want to share that we saw record turnout for this particular election. 27% of our membership cast a ballot. And in that, we also doubled the percentage of school library votes, 10% over last year's 5%. And that was without a school library candidate in the election. So very pleased to see that. And I want to thank all of the Rails staff that do so much to support getting the word out on this, and happy to see it. Any questions about anything that is in the Rails report? That's all I have.
All righty then. Thank you so much, Monica. Next, we have the amazing Ann Slaughter with the digital equity update. Hello, Ann. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
That's awesome.
Thanks,
Go for it,
Renee.
Ann.
All right, so I am working.
Oh man, it's killing it, Peoria though.
If I can get, oh no, that's not what we want to do. Sorry. Hey, Kate, how do you do it with presenter?
Just to share and then slideshow start from beginning.
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. All right. Sorry about that. So I'm here with some broadband digital equity updates, and unfortunately, there is less good news in this update, but there is some. So I'm starting with the less good news. So the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, BEAD, is the major federal program that was intended to fund, well, and still will fund the expansion of broadband networks all over, all 50 states and territories, to ensure that ideally all residents are connected to the internet, hopefully affordably. So this program has existed since the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act in 2021. And projects were just about to kind of hit the ground when they announced new program rules on June 6th. So there are some pretty significant changes that the states are working with right now. So this funding will still be dispersed to the states. The projects will move forward, but one of the phrases that you'll hear when you read about this is shovels in the ground for these build out projects, and shovels in the ground are delayed further while they rework stuff. So in Illinois, that is the Connect Illinois program was set to distribute Illinois' share of the BEAD funding, which was $1.04 billion. Before the new rules were announced, the Office of Broadband was finalizing the first wave of grantees and beginning to accept applications for the second wave of funding. They announced on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. that they have rescinded the first wave of awards and canceled the second wave while they develop a new notice of funding opportunity. So they will be rerunning processes that took quite some time to do the first time. They have a very, very tight timeline to do it. Still unknown how much this will delay the projects in Illinois, but their preliminary analysis of the rules that had been shared before they were formally put into place was up to 2 years of delays. There was also a possible impact on the number of eligible locations, which could include libraries. So those are two things to watch is for projects that might affect your area to actually be moving forward, and then the community anchor institution eligibility. Now for the Digital Equity Act, sort of a subsidiary piece of this broadband related funding dedicated to adoption, funding, device access, digital skills development programs, helping people to actually use the internet that will now be coming into their house. The need clearly still persists. And libraries, as we know, are so crucial in providing their communities with services that support these activities. So there was an expectation that libraries would be benefiting within their states and from the grant program that they had run at the national level. So all of the grants under the Digital Equity Act have now been canceled. The Illinois Office of Broadband received their letter on May 9th that canceled the state's $23.7 million grant award. So there will not be any funding coming through the Digital Equity Act. However, it does sound like, there are still some legal avenues available. And I'll just go back here for a second. On Wednesday, also, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance submitted a letter to the Department of Commerce, the National Technology Information Administration, and leaders in the Senate and the House, urging them to reinstate the funding. Definitely still some large-scale advocacy happening. ALA was one of the signatories on that letter. Very much, legal avenues still to pursue. But again, in Illinois, that means that the Illinois Digital Equity Capacity Grant that was set to distribute $13.1 million of their overall award to nonprofits, libraries, local governments. We had applied in partnership with the Illinois Heartland Library System in Carly. That has been canceled by the May 8th deadline, which was one day before they received the cancellation letter. They had received 260 applications that requested more than $130 million in funding, which is a clear representation of the urgent need for these kinds of programs. So the hope is to be able to continue the work in some way. And now on to E-Rate, which is the third federal program that I'm going to update you on. E-Rate is one of the programs that is funded by the Universal Service Fund and administered by USAC, which I'm not going to get the acronym right, and I apologize for that. But E-Rate itself is a program that is essentially the primary affordability mechanism for internet service to schools and libraries. It provides discounts on that service based on school lunch eligibility in the area. And not every library uses E-Rate. For various reasons, it's an extremely complex program, but it is still really critical, particularly to schools. And the program was also expanded in August 2024 to fund library hotspot lending. That was championed by the ALA, and they had pilot libraries lined up all over the US. So the first threat to E-Rate funding is that on May 8th, the Senate struck down that expansion. So that would make library hotspot lending ineligible for E-Rate discounts. That is pending a House vote. So advocacy directed to the House would be the thing to do right now. And I didn't mention, you will have this, if you don't already, you'll have this presentation along with a handout that has links to more stuff and advocacy actions and all of those things you're interested in following up. So that's one of them. The other potential threat that is, we're less optimistic about the House vote being in favor of hotspots. We're a little bit more concerned about that than the Supreme Court decision, but there is still a pending Supreme Court decision. It's expected in this term to determine the constitutionality of the Universal Service Fund itself. So the entire funding instrument that also funds rural broadband programs and some other items administered by USAC. But there's a good sign that just came up that they have reconvened a bipartisan committee on the Universal Service Fund. So, you know, in the interim while they wait for the Supreme Court decision. So slightly more optimistic, but definitely still pending. So in Illinois, ICN, the state's internet service provider, is also an E-rate provider that does coordination of E-rate for their customers, which include a lot of school districts and, you know, a varying number of libraries throughout the year. But we have this legislation, the Libraries Connected legislation, that expands or enshrines libraries as being high priorities, second to schools when they look at connecting anchor institutions to the Illinois Century Network. So that is like, I think, just pending signature. It had a little bit of back and forth to reconcile some of the changes that had been made through the process. But in anticipation of this legislation going through, ICN has kind of stepped up their attention to libraries and is reaching out with invitations to participate in their bid process for fiscal 27 library service or internet service, and you know, also potential E-rate administration if the library wants them to do that. They're not able to, you know, to know or say what those rates are going to be, but it sounds like the hope is that they'll come out with rates for libraries that are lower than they are now, which would be most welcome. Okay, so the good news is our partnership with Cook County, which I know Monica shared last month, that it had just been unanimously and enthusiastically approved by the Cook County Board of Commissioners to approve $850,000 for Rails to lead the design and implementation of a digital navigator network for public libraries in suburban Cook County. So we will use that funding between whenever we have a signed agreement in place and November 30th to develop a program model, provide library staff training, do a lot of library engagement, community building, and then distribute funding directly to libraries for implementation. And this is public libraries in suburban Cook County. And yes, we have until November 30th. So the current status of that program is pending our receipt of a draft agreement to review and then sign, ideally as quickly as possible. We've had a lot of discussion with our partners there already on the terms. So that's just winding its way through their internal departments, and we hope it pops up in front of us any second. So it's a tall order, but we do have a lot to leverage in terms of the fit for this project with priorities that systems have had in place always, you know, existing program models and strengths, both kind of within the system and kind of in the larger field, digital navigator networks and digital navigation services in libraries are both established models that we would be drawing from and evolving on. So hopefully, you know, everyone kind of in our partnership, we are hoping for continued engagement in this partnership, that this isn't just a one-time thing. It obviously takes more than 5 months to create the systems change that the funding body hopes to achieve in Cook County. So this project is funded by the equity fund of the county. And so the goals of the program are in alignment with this equity fund. And additionally, the Cook County Digital Equity Action Plan named libraries as being crucial to the implementation of this plan. So, you know, we'll come out of this hopefully with some ongoing funding consistent with the model of the equity plan, which directs funding to, or the equity fund, which funds Cook County departments to kind of establish programs with expert partners, and to create these stronger connections among public libraries and county government, which isn't really a thing in most counties in Illinois, like we're speaking very broad strokes, but we're hoping to demonstrate some evolutions to the program model and to the potentials for partnership that we would then be able to, you know, as our organization has a view much broader than just a single county, to, you know, hopefully expand and adapt to this model across other locations as opportunities arise. So that's it. But I'm happy to answer questions.
Why?
So
Excellent.
does the Cook County Partnership provide any like services for the unserved in Cook County that aren't served by public libraries? Is that part of it?
That isn't a question that we have discussed specifically as it relates to this project. So, you know, I would say that at this point, you know, it would just have to do with the ways that the individual public libraries serve non-residents in their areas. But that's a great question to follow up on.
Do you happen to have any idea if the Illinois Century Network and the E-rate that you mentioned in your presentation, do they anticipate it following the E-rate requirements that the national level does?
Yeah, it's that same program, same set of requirements. But if you have questions about that, they can actually, in terms of what that compliance looks like on the ground, ICN is super helpful in kind of interpreting what that really needs to look like on the ground. So you can always reach out to them.
I just want to take a moment. I know all of you know this, but Anne is such a leader in terms of issues of digital equity and broadband, both in Illinois, but also nationally, and her work with CORE and other library organizations. We are very fortunate to have her here in Illinois and at Rails to do this work and to move us forward. So just want to make sure for anybody who's not aware that you know how much Anne does for the entire state.
Thank you, Monica. Very deflating.
I'm sorry for us, but I'm also sorry for you because I bet that is a real
You know,
hard thing to work so hard.
yes, we did know it was a possibility. I mean, just sort of, we always know that things like this are a possibility. And we specifically did when we were developing the application and all the thinking. And so we said from the beginning, you know, not everything we're doing here is going to be for nothing. Like we've got, the need exists. The activities that we had planned, you know, still fit in the charge for library systems and our own priorities. So it's just a matter of, you know, other avenues presenting themselves.
Especially that grant, the $800,000 grant, so.
Yeah, and the county, you know, was specifically committed to supporting this project because this funding had been disappearing from other places. Obviously, not every municipality is equipped to do something like that, but you know, it is heartening to the fact that they stepped up in this way is heartening, and we're very like specifically supportive of the public libraries in their areas and the work that we're doing. So
I think that's replicable in other counties.
So that going into this partnership, that's been one of our priorities all along, is for the work that we do with them to obviously be, you know, calibrated for our shared goals. But, you know, our view is, like I said, to be doing our work in all 50 plus of the counties that we serve. And so we really wanted to make sure that whatever we developed and learned from this program would be, would live on, you know, in ways that we could adapt and apply elsewhere. So definitely one of our priorities.
All right, thank you so much for all your work, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, I know everyone's waiting for this one. Next is the Illinois State Library Report with Greg McCormick. Share only good news, Greg.
Only
And
good
go.
news today. It's all good news.
There you go. I love it.
As Monica indicated, the State Library Advisory Committee did meet on June 12. Much of their discussion was surrounding prioritization of grant funding from our offices and also services that are provided to Illinois libraries. That, of course, was driven much by what was going on at the federal level and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. As Monica did mention, certainly system services support for the regional library systems, very critical. Also noted was the importance of the new EBSCO database package. Much of what we do with our technology grant funding for Illinois libraries, including the Cataloging Maintenance Center as well, was also indicated as a priority for many libraries in the state, and including our academic institutions now, which was later discussed at the Carly meeting the next day, and the importance of that. I am happy to report, though, on the federal level, we did receive our final award notification for our FY25 allotment that we will be expending this coming fiscal year, which is great news for our budget situation for the coming year. We do not know what the future holds beyond this. That's still to be determined. We know that the president's discretionary spending plan would only appropriate $6 million for the Institute of Museum and Library Services in the federal fiscal year 26 budget. That could change with congressional action, and we know that many people are hoping to work toward that. But we do have some priorities determined for what our advisory committee sees would need to be priorities on the state side. Also on June 12th, the lawsuit that Illinois was a party to was updated to address unlawful closure of the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I don't have much more information about that, but I think that any further movement on that is probably more consistent with the dates that Monica mentioned with the ALA suit. So I don't believe this is entirely over yet, but we shall see how this all plays out. Regarding the budget, the state does have a new budget. It has been signed by the governor. Included in that were some increases for library and literacy programs, specifically our equalization aid program received a $4.6 million increase, and that is to assure that we should be able to allocate grants to public libraries with the new increased formula, which was approved by the General Assembly last year, raising that from $7.50 per capita to $17.50 per capita for those public libraries where the tax base is relatively low or is low compared to the population served. We had as an estimate for that budget projection identified where we believe it will impact 145 public libraries in our state. So that is quite significant. Additionally, we received $1 million in literacy funding for Secretary of State funded literacy programs, which is a rather significant increase given the size of the current appropriation of $5.7 million. So all good news on that front. We're moving forward with plans for fiscal year 26. I will say that we are a bit behind in getting some grant applications in at this point with the great unknown of exactly what we were going to be able to fund and not fund. And we still have some grant announcements that are very important to everyone that will be occurring next week for fiscal year 2025. So that's all I have today.
A really good book title, The Great Unknown. We love that.
Great unknown.
Does anyone have anything or any comments you want to ask Greg? All right. Well, Greg, you have a really good weekend. You're obviously welcome to stay. We're going to move on to the unfinished business with the approval of the SAPC grant and budget. To talk about it is Monica and Sharon.
Thank you, Renee. I'm going to kick us off and then I'm going to pass us on to Sharon for additional insights. But I first wanted to extend our thanks to the Illinois Secretary of State, Alexi Janulius, for the system area per capita grant funding that was received in fiscal year 2025. As you know, the Illinois State Library has instructed us to submit an operational plan and budget based on an annual revenue of $11,871,714, which is that funding from the system area per capita grant. In the memo that I sent to you, I did highlight some sort of updated services that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that were included in this budget. In those include the add of some additional replacement vehicles, as those continue to be a top priority. We won't be purchasing quite as many as we have in the last 2 years, but we do want to maintain that schedule of replacement. So we anticipate 4 additional vehicles for fiscal year 2026. All of you were part of our discussion around the development of a leadership program that we will be debuting next fiscal year. And so we have included $15,000 to administer that leadership training program, which Kate will actually speak about a little bit later. We also are going to add a training platform called Niche Academy, which is a learning platform for all Rails members. That would be something that's available to all of our membership, and we'll have more details on that next year should that move forward. Our current strategic plan also ends this year in 2025. So we did include $35,000 for the creation of a new strategic plan. It may, that new plan may not be entirely developed in fiscal 26, but we need to start the process so that we can begin to move forward on new goals for a new age in library services. And then finally, one recent ad that you have not seen in some of the memos that I have sent over the last couple of months is something related to artificial intelligence ambassador program. This is something that's based off a program that happened in New Jersey that many of us saw some discussion of at the ICOL conference in May. The intention is to really look at all of the different ways that libraries are using AI and have really in-depth discussions about the ethics of AI and what should be possible in terms of how libraries use those. As you all know from the approval of our AI policy, we have to develop procedural guidelines for Rails here around some of these things. And so our hope is to use this educational effort to both bolster our own knowledge and understanding of what we should be considering when it comes to this new age of AI. In terms of infrastructure, we have wanted to make sure that, you know, we've been able to attract and retain a really exceptional staff here at Rails. I know you all get to hear so often from the folks that are here and the work that they're doing. It is really important that our salaries remain competitive so that we continue to do so. We are basing our cost of living increase at 4% to keep pace with the consumer price index increases. And then that is included in terms of the total cost is that cost of a 4% raise for our team. We also had our Rails capital assessment completed in fiscal year 2024. So we have some projects that are related to that capital assessment to make sure that we continue to maintain excellent infrastructure. And so you'll see those including light fixture and ceiling tile replacement, asphalt replacement, and a server room reconsideration. But those are just some highlights. I'm going to pass it over to Sharon to share additional things about her very robust report that she shared.
I'm going to keep this brief and just touch on the highlights. So overall, we're budgeting a surplus of $113,112 in our general fund, and we're budgeting to spend an additional $699,000 from our capital projects fund for those projects that Monica had mentioned regarding replacing vehicles and keeping our facilities, our infrastructure up to date and functional. I did want to point out a few major changes from fiscal year 26 to 25, as well as a couple of things that changed between those original budget memos that you had received from us and this final proposed budget. So this budget does reflect the new sorting operation and the additional staff and space needs to support that sorting operation at Bolingbrook. You'll see that difference in the delivery line between fiscal years. It does also incorporate the transition of the RSA staff to being employed directly by them effective January 1st, 2026. I did want to note that this does just shift expenditures down in our statement of revenues and expenditures from personnel to contractual services because we are maintaining the same support of our LSAPs overall. It's just shifting expenditures around, but you will see that difference. It also reflects the movement of expenditures for the World Language Cataloging Services Program and the L2 Maintenance and Development grants from the general fund to the special revenue fund, offset by those anticipated grant revenues. It is the 5th year of receiving those grants, and we made that movement this year in anticipation of those grants being awarded. And it does include the addition of the Cook County Digital Equity Grant that Ann was talking about of $850,000 also in that special revenue fund. So we have in fiscal year 2026 added back the special revenue fund and activity within that fund based on those additional grants. It does also incorporate the planned replacement of all staff computers for $100,000 in our general fund. Out of our operating fund because those are below our capitalization threshold. So you will see that added, and it does incorporate all of those facilities items that Monica had mentioned, as well as a project from fiscal year 2025 that wasn't able to be completed in 2025 for some server replacements that will be completed early in 2026. So since this last month, Rails reassessed interest rate projections because we were originally projecting at the lowest of the total range that the Federal Reserve was looking at for calendar year 2026. So we were budgeting at 2.9%, but with the Federal Reserve being extremely conservative and being very inflation focused, we did move that up to 3.5%, which I do feel extremely comfortable with. That's the midpoint of the Federal Reserve's central tendency projections at this point. Over the past couple of months. So that's a change from what you've seen before. And over the previous 12 months, we did look at fuel prices. Over the previous 12 months, fuel prices have been averaging $3.14 per gallon. And the past 8 months, they've been hovering around that $3 per gallon range. So at the time that the budget was finalized, fuel prices were projected to decrease 18 cents per gallon in the Midwest area. But since the budget was finalized, of course, we've had that conflict in the Middle East arise. So what we may actually see, we're not sure where this might go, but what we actually see might vary from the budget. So just FYI for all of you. Those are the highlights that I wanted to note that were major differences between fiscal years. Does anyone have any specific questions, though, about anything that they read?
Thank you, Sharon, for looking into your crystal ball. What the heck is gonna happen especially with the interest rates, the fuel costs, so many unknowns into the budget. And yes. We really appreciate your diligence, especially in this really volatile time.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, it's hard to know. So as differences happen, of course, we will be reporting those to you all.
Send us all a text.
Fuel prices skyrocketing.
Difference.
Monica, do you have anything else to add or?
No, unless anyone has any additional questions or comments that we can answer.
All righty. May I have a motion and a second to approve the area and per capita grant application and the fiscal year 2026 budget and submit them to the Illinois State Library for approval?
So moved, Jen.
All right. Thank you, Jen and Julie. Emily, will you please call roll?
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek,
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski,
Yes.
Julie Millibeck,
Yes.
Emily Porter, Carolyn Sennett, Alex Vancina,
Yes.
Karen Voidick,
Yes.
Catherine Yanikowski,
Yes.
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
What about me? Yes.
I'm sorry, Renee Lane.
Yes. Already forgotten.
You're gone, I'm gone.
It's okay. Thank you. Now we move on. Now we move on to new business. Alex with the Rails election report.
Thanks, Renee. So the nominating committee met most recently on May 29th, 2025, and recommends the following slate of officers for the coming year. Gwen Gregory for president, Catherine Yamakowski for vice president, Jean Carroll for secretary, and Amanda Kowalski for treasurer. There is also an at-large seat on the board. The incoming president will make recommendation for that once they're seated. So the slate will be presented to the board for a vote next month. Regarding the election results, as Monica mentioned, we had a great turnout this year. Thank you for everyone who assisted with promoting that to our members. The two at-large seats were won by Ilana Wilburn of the Evanston Public Library and Megan Vogt, Talcott Free Library. The three public library trustee seats were Roberta Parks, Peoria Public Library, Ron Hollahan, Dunlop Public Library District, and Carolyn Sennett, Wilmette Public Library. And the special library seat, Catherine Yamakowski. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Congratulations to the new and returning board members. Congratulations, Gwen.
And thank you to all the committee members for their work throughout the election process.
Next is Kate with an overview of the new Catalyst Leadership Program. Fantastic name, whoever was in charge of naming that one.
Thank you. So I know Monica's been kind of keeping you up to date on our progress with this leadership development program that we're now calling Rails Catalyst, like Renee said. Some of you may have heard this was really driven by an expressed need from a lot of our members. And so we gathered a lot of these people who had been reaching out to us. They're directors, they're middle managers, they're emerging leaders. And we had a bunch of conversations to really kind of hone in on where the leadership gaps were and what we really hope to come out of this program. So we land, oh, here, let me start my slideshow. We landed on three kind of for our check. So the first one being, really addressing those training gaps were for people to be able to develop their leadership skills. So that includes self-leadership, knowing that if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. Team leadership, and then cross-functional leadership. So being able to lead across an organization. And then our second one, strengthening the foundation for thriving and resilient libraries. We all know that now more than ever, we need really strong libraries in Illinois, and we cannot have strong libraries without strong library leaders. And then the third hoped for outcome is to create a collaborative learning community of trusted peers. And this really came from talking to people who had been through programs like Synergy and Elevate, and even Directors University, and everyone, I know Julie said too, the most important thing that came out of those programs was the deep relationships that people built that have lasted throughout their careers. So this is what the program's going to look like. It's going to be end capped by half-day in-person events, which everyone felt like was really important to have that in-person experience. But the bulk of the program will be these monthly online sessions, 6 months of online sessions. And if you're familiar with the theory behind how adults learn, you build awareness, and then you build your learning around your unique situation in your unique organization, then you practice those skills, and then finally you're able to apply them. And so that's kind of what we are using to design these monthly coaching sessions. So participants will get materials beforehand to kind of read and think about. Then they'll meet in a large group and be coached through how to build those skills for themselves. And then they'll follow up with smaller cohort meetings that'll be designed in a way that'll actually allow them to practice those skills. And it's those smaller cohort meetings too, where people will really start to build those deeper relationships and form their network. So who's going to do this all? Becky Thelman. Becky's a certified professional coach. She's the founder of Vivica Partners, which is a consulting company that does leadership development, coaching. They help companies manage change. She's the former transformation expert advisor at Google, and she's an expert in coaching, adult learning, and behavior change. And she's been a really great partner throughout this whole process. She brings a really fresh perspective because she's not from libraries, but she leads a few cohorts of Rails member library directors with executive coaching. So she really kind of gets our unique situation in libraries. So who should apply? Early and mid-level staff, informal, which is, you have a manager title or an informal leadership role if you're a project manager or leading people in some other way. If you demonstrate leadership potential and the desire to grow and learn, if you're driven to create impact, and if you can foster that supportive environment that we really need in those cohort groups. And all of that will be supported by a letter from a manager or a director or a dean. And then, of course, we're really hoping for a diverse set of candidates, not only in like demographics and identity, but also in things like geographic location. And that's it. Applications open July 15th, but you're going to start to see information kind of trickling out starting at the very beginning of July. I know the communications team is planning on some teasers with our cool logo. Does anybody have any questions? Between 40 and 50.
Oh.
Is that a lot?
Yeah. Awesome. That's ambitious.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. Looking forward to the results. Through emails, not in person.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you. Thank you. Let's see. Let's move on. Look at here. We have Grant, who's joining us in person. Hi, Grant, with an update of the resource sharing map.
Hello, everyone. This update is a long time coming, but I'm excited to finally share the developments on the resource sharing map. And let's see if a screen share we can. So for those who aren't aware, this is the current Rails resource sharing map. It's a map of Rails libraries that are either standalone or members of consortia. The public libraries are the shapes, the blots of color there. And then there's points for the non-public libraries as well. This was last updated in 2019 after seeing several updates over the previous 5 years to that. And then there's been a hiatus of update for several reasons, but we now have the capabilities to make it bigger and fancier. With help from a new tool we have called Esri ArcGIS, which is a mapping tool that allows us to kind of bust the doors wide open to Rails maps and analysis and lots of exciting things. So here is a splash page to the new map. Here's the in progress developmental Rails resource sharing map. Subtle changes, as you can see, but the goal for this was to create a map that is easier to update. We can update it now daily or weekly or monthly, whatever you like, instead of by the year. But we can also add more layers, more detailed information, and it's interactive and a lot more easily shareable for the members and also for Rails staff. This was a limited scope in terms of all of the possibilities we have for mapping in Rails. So more will be to come, but this is the exciting update we have for now. So I'm just going to give a fun demo to show everyone what it can do. So as you can see, it already zooms into the state wherever you like. You can search for a library, and my demo library is Wheaton Public Library. So it'll zoom in to that service area. And then you could click on that service area to see it pop up. There it is. It'll show some information. It'll give you a link to the library's L2 page, as well as showing a list of the current resource sharing programs they're involved in. And I chose Wheaton because they are involved in all 4 that are demonstrated on the map. So it's a nice visual there. You also see the points. There are also individual library points for the non-public libraries that show a little bit more information, their address, population served, as well as another link to their L2 page as well for convenience. Zoom out. There's a little bit of an about section. You can see the layers and what the various colors represent. Also show the default layers of the library buildings and the service areas. There's also the full system layer with a little bit of information, number of libraries, link to the website, etc., as well as library counties, which I'm still developing, but it might show some basic stuff like a number of libraries in that county by type, something simple like that. Next level is what I am most excited to show off are the filtering. Is you can filter by LSAP and have everything else disappear, and it zooms in, and you can just see that. You could choose multiple, show multiple, all that fun stuff. Same with the system. You just want to see, you can just show Heartland libraries, show Rails libraries. Zoom in like that. Wells County.
I froze on the screen.
It froze. Oh no.
Also, you kept clicking, and I'm like, what are you clicking?
Give it a refresh.
It's regular.
Thoughts gallon.
Are you able to grab the information like what Cyber Drive already has, like the population and?
Everything from L2 is populating the map, as well as a few other additional resources that I'm using. No luck. Let's try something else. Otherwise, I'll just continue. This was the gist of it, of showing the fun. There we go. Okay. Ooh, it's catching up. That's fascinating.
Oh, really?
That is not me moving it. One more time. Now we're caught up. All right, so this is a filter by Will County, for example. So it shows all the libraries in that county that you could review or print this map as well. Also can filter for Find More libraries, e-read libraries, which is a lot of the state. Same with Explore More, as well as Lincoln. Zoom in there. So you can also print the map and share a link to your filtered map as well, which was a much demanded feature request. So this is where the map currently is. I'll be developing it a little bit more before a official launch at the member update in September. We'll be sharing out the link for for everyone outside of Rails to start exploring the map. We'll also have a feedback form so that people can send feature requests, and that may or may not be for this map, but there's gonna be a lot of more map development coming in the future that we're all very excited for. But yeah, in the meantime, if you have any questions about this map, let me know. What's up?
Can you search any address, like any?
Yes.
So I can search an address to find out if they're within my district?
Yeah, so in the search bar up here, you can search by library building, public service area, or just the ArcGIS address code. So if I just type in something like Oak Park, it'll show up as the town Oak Park, but you could do numbers of.
You could do a home address.
You could do 1, 2, 3. Oh, how about
125 Tower Drive.
Yeah, how about that? I'm like, how do I not dox anyone on accident?
I know. That's what we should.
Right. Yeah, so it'll zoom into the Rails building. You can see that. You can see we are within the Indian Prairie Public Library District. Yeah.
Are there any other things you're adding to it that we don't see yet?
I mentioned the counties update, but that'll be minimal. I also was in the process of changing all of these individual points to better show their library type. So the schools would have a different icon than the publics, than the academics. But in my first trials, it was very busy because the icons were a little bigger if you wanted to be able to see the actual icon in it. So that's a goal, but the core of the map is ready. It's just final tweaks and making sure all the data is working and populating. Yeah.
So does it show the community college districts?
No, so that is kind of what I was meaning of, like, there's lots of potential for map future. So this is going to be the go-to Rails map for now, but I'm imagining there will be a fancier Rails map that has school boundaries, community college districts, legislative districts, kind of those more shape visual maps, as well as data attached to those with pop-ups and everything. So
I couldn't see this, but for the academic libraries, does it include iShare membership?
should. It used to in one of the early versions. Where did it go? That is a good share.
When you looked at Wheaton College, because it was too small.
Yeah, I will add that because I have that. Thank you.
Museums, museum libraries.
If they're in, so this was the tricky part of translating it from the existing map. The existing map has all public service areas and only library points of academic, special, and school libraries that were in an LSAP. So if they were standalone, non-public library, they were not included in the map. Just because there are a lot more points to include if we did that. Though, again, there will be more maps, a specialized library only map that we can develop and those kinds of things. So everyone has their time to shine.
It was really important to all of us as a team to keep this sustainable and to make sure that we were able to both update the data points that we had in the 2019 map and make it, as you can see how incredible this tool is, but also again, leave that room for all of these other innovations that we know people will be interested in as time.
Yeah, this is the first map I've built in the new software, so I'm learning along with the process, but yeah, lots of fun to come. Yeah.
Where's the data coming at the house level?
That's all the built-in kind of Esri ArcGIS geocoding repository. That's just kind of available. It's similar to how a Google map is populated with an address. It's the same kind of idea.
So if a referendum passes in a library district, it's over a non-resident area, like that would be automatically updated.
So with the service area shapes, that information comes from the Department of Revenue that then sends it to the state library that then shares it with us. So as soon as I get that updated, and that process has
Probably a year.
Department of Revenue gets it from the counties.
Yeah.
When they update, like after, you pass your referendum and then they're updating all their tax codes and then it goes, because
Probably takes.
Plainfield did this right about the time that the state library was first doing shape files, so.
Yeah, so I don't know how long that takes, but as that core map from the Department of Revenue is sent over, I'll be keeping it updated. Yeah, so no more 5 years of waiting for updates.
Fine.
Yeah, something like that.
That's still good enough.
Since we're on it, can you just show everyone where my library district is? Because probably no one knows where it's at. It's Top Hat. Just, just see, since we're all staring at a map right now. TAL.
Sorry,
He is in Tom.
Alcott. Here we go.
Right up to the Wisconsin border.
Yeah.
Right back along. And you can see all the unserved area.
Yep.
Wow.
Go a little bit south.
Oh.
Rockford that I talk about all the time.
Yes. There's so many weird.
My neighborhood,
Yeah.
so for Rockford Public Library staff, they could potentially be looking at this.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that they're tapped into the Winnebago County tax map thing anyway, but still, like, just to have a visual.
Mhm.
Really.
Yeah, for Rails members to use this as the main map to locate if a person is part of that library would be great, because
Absolutely.
currently we use the Cyber Drive Illinois map.
Mhm.
Yeah. Decide that. So that would be great if when it does happen, right?
Yep.
But greatly appreciate it and really nice to see you in person.
Yeah,
Usually I see you
good.
with the cat.
Yes.
Roaming around.
Yes.
Here's the cat.
I was gonna say, you could have brought the cat.
Yeah, it's good. Sometimes it's just easier to screen share, but now that we have these fancy new dongles, can come in person. So yeah.
As a person allergic to cats, I'm thankful that you're. Does anyone else have any other comments or concerns or additions for Grant?
I was just gonna say, your suggestion of having the number of libraries by type per county is fantastic, because anytime a report asks me for that, I have to go to the tax records and just like count. So knowing where to go would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meantime, before the map is live, we always have that number, so you can shoot me an email.
There you go.
Yeah, if there's any other comments, suggestions of stuff we can add, I'm all ears. So let me know.
I like the idea of having all the different types as layers, so you can, I was looking the other day at special libraries on some map, so few and far between. It'd be nice to be able to connect with those without having to do too much research.
Yeah.
Renee's not gonna be here next month either.
There you go.
Yeah, you can bring the cat. All the staff can bring their animals. It's all good. I have doodles at home waiting for me, so it's all good. All right. Thank you so much, Grant, for being here. Seriously,
you.
thank you. Great job. A lot of work. So.
Yes, and it's such a big change from the former map.
Absolutely.
And I can just imagine I was part of the consortia committee at one point, and I remember Kate Hall being very excited for this map. So she'll be playing around with that. I know that. All right. So next we have new members. This is an action item with our dear Jessica Silva.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. We have a request to join Rails from Wallace Township Public Library, which is a public library serving Wallace Township, which is near Ottawa, Illinois. I shared the benefits of Rails membership and they're excited to join. I got to visit the library 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks back, and I met with the librarian, Kevin Babb, to chat about Rails membership, and they're interested in continuing education opportunities and networking opportunities, as well as grants. The library has existed in some way since 2011, but now they're like in a physical location and ready to serve. They would make a great addition to our public library members. Do you have any questions for me as a board?
That was easy, Jessica. All right, guys, if you're ready, may I have a motion and a second to approve the Wallace Township Library as a new member of Rails and submit the request to the Illinois State Library for final approval?
So moved. Amanda?
I thank you, Amanda and Diane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. There you go. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and just while you're on the screen, Jessica, I do want to congratulate and let everyone know that she will be the new co-chair for the ILA Conference Committee. So I'm very excited to be working with you.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Next is the draft of the fiscal year 2026 calendar for Rails board meetings. Monica.
Thank you, Renee. So we're presenting this calendar mostly just to make sure we have all of our outside activities and conferences on the calendar. We'll officially ask for approval at the July meeting when the new board is seated, but we do need to approve the date for the July meeting specifically, since that's our next meeting. I do also want to call your attention to June of 2026. This is kind of an outlier situation, but Juneteenth falls on a Friday that day. It falls on the third Friday of the month, so Rails will be closed for that holiday. The fourth Friday is the ALA conference, which will be in Chicago that month, which puts us in a bit of an odd situation in terms of figuring out what the best date for the Rails board meeting should be. We did kind of think about the possibilities of doing it on Thursday, but we did want to kind of off of either week, honestly, of the third week or the fourth week. But we wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because that's an outlying situation from a normal year. But I did want to open it up in case anyone had anything else we should be aware of to add to this before our July meeting.
Speed this up. I love it. Well, no one has anything to add?
I really like having this paper so that I know when the conferences are. My calendar as well. Helps us all.
All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve the Rails July board meeting date of Friday, July 25th at 1 o'clock?
Second, Gwen.
Thank you, Emily and Gwen. All in, where am I? Sorry about that. So many action items. There you go. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Crickets. The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next up, another action item. Rails organizational chart and pay grade assignments for fiscal year 2026. Our dear Monica is up again.
Thank you, Renee. So this is an update that we offer you each June. And so this just describes some of the changes that have happened throughout the year so that you have an update, and then we'll ask you for approval of our pay scale and our work chart. This was prepared by Human Resources Director Sam Daly. Sam is on vacation today, so she couldn't join us. But I want to thank Sam for her work in putting this together. So there is one change in terms of roles, and that is one we told you about last month, that Stacy Palmisano will be promoted from Special Projects Coordinator to Executive Assistant, which was Emily's role. You will see on the org chart that Stacy's position is listed as open. That has been posted. It actually closes today. So we will see soon about that. We also showed you a list of the new hires from this fiscal year. So you see each of their names and roles as you go through. And then on your next page is your updated org chart. That's just updated with all of the names that are currently here at Rails in their current positions. And as we said, if a position is open, it's listed as open. And then finally, on the very last page is an updated version of our pay grade assignments. This was recommended from HR Source to reflect a 2.27% adjustment. That's much higher than in other years, but that is reflecting, again, that consumer price index change, as well as just the marketplace and what's happening there. So I did want to make sure that you all had a chance to ask any questions or note anything else that you'd like me to share.
Fantastic. Let me just tell you, this is a fantastic board. May I have a motion and a second to approve the changes to the Rails organizational chart and pay grade assignments?
Thank you. Second, Alex.
All right, thank you, Alex. Emily, will you please call roll?
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Julie Millivik.
Yes.
Emily Porter.
Yes.
Carolyn Sennett.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voidick.
Yes.
Kathleen Yanikowski.
Yes.
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
And Renee Leva.
Yeah, yes, sorry. All right. So excited. Hey, our buddy, our friend, our colleague. Next is board development with Mr. Tom Stagg. Hi, Tom.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for the invitation to speak today. As a former board member, it's great to be back in Burr Ridge. Unfortunately for you, experience in grad school has turned everything I write into a minimum of 2,000 words. Hope to cut that short today. Next slide, Emily. Okay. The role of the trustee has to be the focus of the search. Keep these principles in sight when thinking about the ideal trustee is essential. As everyone sitting here today knows, we are in contentious times. The legal and ethical responsibilities are great. Maintaining transparency and accountability are important roles of the trustees as we build trust with the community and effective governance of the library. Identifying the ideal candidate. Leadership skills and financial abilities are great tools. Would like to focus on the last two. Community engagement has moved to the forefront in the last few years. The ability to be an advocate for your library, knowing the message of the library, and sharing it with the community is more important now than ever. The advocacy role of the trustee is so important today. Advocacy for your library and for all libraries. Experience in governance, the library board is a little different than regular boards. You have one employee, you need one voice. The one voice is really important as we see so many items being misinterpreted in social media. Knowing your demographics and trying to mirror your community increases the opportunities available to your library, attracts additional patrons, and increasing the focus on minority populations. Our library has increased to 15% diverse community. This has opened some new programs and new materials for circulation. Enhanced decision-making has made the pleasure of being, I had the pleasure of being on a panel that Renee Leva spearheaded of the discussion of empathetic policies and their creations at the last ILA conference. And Jennifer was on that as well. The diversity and inclusion needs to be shown in library policy, less legalese and more empathy. The outreach is so important to the library. Our library is situated in 2 counties and covers a large rural area with a changing demographic. The diversity should also include geographic diversity, especially for districts like ours that cover large areas. We lost 4,000 residents in between the last 2 census. Knowing your changes in demographics is important. If you're having issues getting the correct demographic data, the Census Bureau has a great team that conducts webinars on all things with the census. Laura Keys of the Dunlap Public Library recently had a webinar set up with the Census Bureau that provided valuable information, and they are willing to share with everyone. Okay, it's time for that compelling message. We need to create that elevator speech, that 2-minute quick chat about the importance of becoming a library trustee. We know the pay is not great, but you can double or triple your salary every year. Impact the trustees have on the community can be huge. The networking capabilities that trustees have in their personal network are a tremendous help. One connection can be a big help to your library. Here at Rails, we witnessed that interaction with Senator Laura Murphy. Senator Murphy was a very strong, is a very strong advocate for libraries. Trustees can utilize the ILA legislative meetups. And that's a good way for trustees to meet their lawmakers and advocate for your library. Recognizing these important values. Having these important values in your mind when you're searching is important. Commitment to the library and community passion for literacy, and the ability to work collaboratively as part of the board. Board experience is a valuable asset to potential trustees. Connection and networking are a great source for finding trustees. Was talking to the former mayor of East Peoria. Went to school with Dave, so I know him quite well, and he's really open. He told me that he always looks to the library board when he's looking for candidates for the city council. He thought it's a great starting point for people. Schools are another avenue. We have 2 educators on our board at Alpha Park Library. Churches are another. We have a church board president who is also an engineer, which we're having some issues with our building, so that works out really well too. Service organizations that have a strong membership in the community. Government relationships are also important. We have a strong connection with the towns in our districts and townships. Remember that famous decennial report to the county board? Those strong connections allowed talking to the mayors and the council members for possible trustees as well. Do not overlook patrons. You know, the ones that attend all the events, they know all the staff. They probably know more about what's going on in the library than we do. And they also support the library. Keeping a list of potential trustees in your mind will help you when you get an opening on the board. With the new legislation concerning replacing an open seat on the library board, we have 90 days to fill the open seat. If not, it is the role of the state librarian to fill the seat. We all love the state library, Greg, but keeping that decision local is more important for them too. Plus, like we did, we filled the seat and we got a really nice letter from the state library. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. I did keep it under 2,000 words, yay. The Rails experience was a great learning and networking experience for me. The members that are having their last meeting today, thank you for your commitment to improving libraries. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for being here. And we already know that Greg is actually listening. So there you go, Greg.
Question, Tom. I was just wondering, when you were talking about places to recruit from, do you find that many librarians from like academic libraries are interested in being trustees for public library?
I think that is, but I think it's a lot of it's
It depends if there's like a thing like that in your district, really.
because I know we have a couple academic librarians in our district, but none have really stepped forth. I think it might be a busy kind of thing, you know, but next time I may reach out to them. I don't want to appear to be a stalker, you know.
Ever.
My question is, as a library trustee in Bloomington, I find myself an odd duck because no one else that's been a trustee since I've been there has been current administration or former administration or staff. So what's the percentage that have had library experience? Because the only thing, when I started, I just left Bradley. And the thing that I found was they would ask questions and it's like, if you were a library, you know, had worked in a library, you would already know this. Or to keep questioning every little paperclip. And it's like, they're not taking this money and, you know, pocketing it. So why are you asking about this new database? Because we need this. So sometimes I just wonder, you know, not that I clash with anybody, but I'm like, you know, you really need some experience or time in the library. And this week, Monday, I went for my first, and I've been around libraries for a long time, bookmobile. So I think the other thing too is if you are a trustee, to work or see, you know, the other departments other than just the circulation, because people forget other departments in there. Unless you have children and you're, in the library and see, everything that's being checked out and seeing how busy it is, the strollers, the walkers, you know, and the canes and everybody that comes in, kids with skateboards. I mean, I've seen everything at Bloomington, where sometimes I go to libraries and you don't see anybody. There's more staff than patrons. So I just wonder, am I just a singular experience? Are there very many people who are former library people or even current library?
On our current board.
Yeah, I think that's a better question for Jennifer, Alex, or Joe.
Out of our 7 are
Jean?
current or former library employees in
really?
athletics. Yeah.
I just had 3 on my board and 2 went off, so now I only have 1, but still.
What? I don't have any. I just got my first one and I'm so excited. I've been a library director for 10 years. I've had 0 library experience on my board until a month
Also in
ago.
a really small town.
I know, but still.
But I would recommend getting the libraries in your area, get the staff to run. Cause so I'm on my library board and I got my coworker who happens to work at the same place I do and lives in my hometown. I got her to run. So that's how you get.
I just live in a very small.
Yeah.
I live in my district and I'm up until this other person just moved down, might have been the only librarian that lives in my.
True.
So, I mean, half the people who work at my library don't live in my library district.
Teachers?
I could try for some teachers. But anyway, I think it would be awesome to have more librarian or just library generally, experience on the boards because it really, I'm excited for
It'd
it.
be awesome if maybe Alexi recommended, I mean, I feel like city libraries, it's a harder situation because the library is not the mayor's first priority, nor should it be. But it would be great if there was some kind of a precedent, at least a recommendation to have someone with library experience appointed to these city library boards.
And I could say too, those of us that are already kind of in the seats, we've done Reaching Forward programs. Alex and I last year did and Jenny Kutchell did a poster session at ILA. And those are things that I think we can continue to talk about too, like our experiences as library workers, helping to influence the, betterment of our own libraries too. Even LSTA students or LTA students, that would be really cool too. So.
Maybe get my city to make sure they have a library card before they appoint them.
That's what I mean. It would be so great if there was some kind of.
Mine get elected without library cards and I can't do anything about that, so.
One of the other things that I noticed since I've been on rails, when I used to go more frequently to the smaller libraries around, I would go with Sue Busenberg, and she was former library Rails board member. And we would say to these small library directors, have you ever thought about running for Rails? You can do it. And they're like, oh, me? Up by Chicago? Me? I just come from, population 500. And it's like, yes, we want you to be there. And it would make them feel better, but that's not why I said it, why we encourage them. So our communities can have a voice, really, because they need it desperately. And that's kind of a segue into what I'm going to talk about a little bit next. But I just would encourage people from all, if you know anyone at a small library, and it doesn't matter if you're a director, as long as you're on the staff, consider running for Rails. And I think it's just that little pat on the back, and not just, like I say, not to make them feel good, but knowing that your community needs a voice. And it doesn't matter if you're a director or, I don't know, janitor, you could still be in still be a member of the board. And so I think that that should be stressed, especially in the geographic area like that I am, and even north too. So.
Right, thank you so much for adding that. Tom, until ILA announces the new awards, you're still technically our trustee of the year. So use that title in your emails, just to let you know.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being here, Tom. Greatly appreciate it.
Former one.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man. So much talent over there. Let's see, the next thing is the Rails board member reports. This is where our board members share what's happening at their own libraries. So anyone can start.
So, at OSF, I was given the opportunity to actually participate in the AI ambassadors program, and it was a great experience. I get to use AI at my work every day, in interesting ways compared to what I would use it for at the public library. So it's really fun. It was a great experience.
I'm really excited to share this month, the LaGrange Public Library voted to expand its Cards for Kids eligibility. So now we have expanded to one of our large school districts. We actually have quite a large unincorporated area around us for Cook County. So we're looking at a potential of 400 elementary students, 400 and plus high school students, but also we extended it birth through 18. So expect a, big old marketing campaign.
Myself being a small library junkie, I happened to find this article in the Panagraph of Bloomington. And it says Tri-County Library Crawl set for August 30th. And when I had the word crawl, it's like I associate that with boutique crawl or pub crawl. So if it's library, it makes it even better. So I checked this out, and there are several counties that have joined together. I went to Tarlock and I picked up this map. And if you go to all 19, you get a chance to win this wonderful prize. Well, I think it's good for seniors. It's good for families to just get all around the community, all around the Tri-County area. Sometimes families go to all parks as well that are around there. But I thought this was a great idea, and I found out about it at Tarlock. And the librarian remembered me when I had gone out there to try to, get her to be a trustee. But anyway, I think it's a wonderful idea. And on the back, it's got the hours and times when the people can come. And I'll pass this around. And I just think it's wonderful. And it's like a summer library crawl, because I know when I worked at Peoria Public at Lakeview, we got ambushed by so many people from different counties. And it was wonderful because at our little branch, we had I want to say 2,000 people that would come, and it was great. The other thing I want to say was I want to self-indulgent, but I want to give a plug to ILA Retirees Forum. We had our first Zoom meeting last Friday, and we have our website, but we're making some corrections on it. And there are a couple other people that I never heard of, but they're from I believe, Chicago area. Kathy Parker, she's a consultant.
Oh, yeah. Her real president. Yes.
And Sue Wilsey from Helen Plum, I believe she's retired. And Alexander Todd, and I don't know much about him because he said he's going to be in and out because he's really busy. So it was wonderful to talk to them, and we're planning on having some kind of a presentation, even if it's small one, at ILA in Rosemont. And we were scheduled for the morning, but who wants to go in the morning at 8 or 9 o'clock? Nobody will think about it. I don't want to think about retiring at 8 or 9 in the. So we suggested maybe in the evening when people are feeling a little relaxed and don't have to rush off to another meeting, to come down and sit and talk to us about retirement. And we're not going to tell, well, I know people have a lot of questions about planning for retirement, financial planning, where to go. When I talked to the lady in the library director in Carlock, and I asked her, do you know what, when it's time, do you know where to turn or where to go? And she goes, well, I said, you have a city hall here? She said, well, not really. And I said, do you know who you'll contact? And I said, I am a rep. And she kind of looked at me. So I thought, I'm going to stop this line of inquiry. So anyway, we want to tell people where to go, but they have to take some responsibility themselves. And it's not a one size fits all. We want people to do some checking prior to, so they're comfortable and they have a good idea of what they're going to do, how many years before retirement, so they can guesstimate on what's going on. And thank you, Tom, because I think this will lend itself. Your talk right now gave me an idea, because for one of our programs or one of our talks, I'd like to talk about recruiting these retirees to be on their library board. So anyway, thank you. And if I didn't get a chance to tell you, because I was in the restroom, thank you everyone for helping me along, especially Tom. He was my mentor from July of 2019, and he still continues to be my mentor for Rails and for just library talk in general. So thank you. And I hope that next month when the new group comes on, that mentioned the mentorship, because it's helped 110%. And you too, Karen. Thanks for your help. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I have a quick announcement. So I'm happy to say that just this week, the NIU Library had a commitment that the NIU libraries are going to join Find More Illinois as a lender.
Hey.
You ready, Glenn? To start with. As a lender.
Awesome. Anyone else has anything else to share? All right. Our next meeting will be held on Friday, July 25th, 2025 at 1 o'clock. The day will start with new board member orientation at 9:30 in the morning. All board members are invited, followed by lunch at noon and the regular board meeting at 1 o'clock. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to the agenda? I hope not, because it's pretty much set, but on the agenda will be the approval of the fiscal year 2026 board meeting calendar. Our new board members will take the oath of office, vote on the slate for the Rails officers, discussion of the board committee assignments, and election of at-large member for executive committee.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can there be board pictures again that day? For people.
Dan is nodding yes, so I'm gonna say yes.
Yes. Have your picture taken. If you already had your picture taken, you are welcome to have your picture taken again that day, the 25th. If you are new, you will have your picture.
You'll get another email about that.
Right? And we'll add more work to Ola, which is totally fine. Go ahead.
Thank you, Renee, for all of your presidential work.
Let me just tell you, Emily, thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone being here. I love what I do. It's just awesome. It's great. Even if Greg is might not be listening right now. There you go. I don't know if you know this, but if I'm part of committees, I usually call out the people if their photos not shown up. I've done it to Dan sometimes for advocacy. No, but seriously, I love what I do. I love talking to everyone here at Rails. Very talented human beings. Do talk to Mark. Do talk to everyone here. Galen's awesome. Well, talk to him about the pet and you'll be like, we both conversated. Or Ryan, obviously, we both in Cub Scouts. Ryan, you're awesome. But thank you, seriously. Gwen's gonna be amazing too. Looking forward to all the new board members to start. Megan, you're gonna love it. Your first 3 years, let me just tell you, there's so much more that you're gonna learn and you're gonna be like, no way, I didn't know you did that. That's awesome. But thank you again. I know that was more than you expected, Emily. Good, Emily. Good. So that cut off the whole Megan part. Again, Megan, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously. You'll love it. Yeah. And did you know, just to let you know, because most people don't, there's a coffee machine in the back. you'll have to ask how to use it. Very,
The orientation is.
it's intricate. It's intricate. The thing, I'm like, I was always confused. It's the coffee machine. Before we go into a closed session, let's have a 10-minute recess. We will see each other again in 10 minutes.
Board meeting is back in session at 3:06 PM.
The board will move into closed session to discuss matters pertaining to employee compensation as per 5 Illinois Compiled Status, Chapter 120, Paragraph 2, Section 2C 21, which states exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects. One, the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Is that correct? Yes. May I have a motion and a second to move into a closed session?
Second, Diane.
Thank you, Emily and Diane. Emily, will you please call roll?
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Julie Millivek.
Yes.
Emily Porter.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voitic.
Yes.
Kathy Yanikowski.
Yes.
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister. Renee Leva.
Yes. All right, welcome back. Let's start. May I have a motion to give a wage increase of 6.27% to Executive Director Monica Harris that begins July 1st of 2025?
Emily, second.
All right, so who do we have?
Jean.
All right, Jean and Emily, thank you so much. Emily, can you please call roll?
Sure. Julie Millivek.
Yes.
Emily Porter.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voitic.
Yes.
Kathy Yanikowski.
Yes.
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
And Renee Leva.
A loud yes. Now, I'm gonna let everyone talk because I usually talk. So guys, anyone has any comments in regards to Monica, go for it. She's right here.
We are so excited to give you a raise. We would love to give you more because we all recognize that you're doing way above and beyond. There was no argument or question.
I agree, you're doing an awesome job, especially since there's so much litigation and governmental crap going on that it's very hard to navigate. And you're doing a good job, not only trying to understand it, but explaining it to those of us that don't speak that language. So I appreciate that because it doesn't dumb it down, but it's very simplified so that we can understand it.
And making sure that it's communicated out to all of our member libraries as well. You know, some of the initiatives that Rails has undertaken under your leadership have just really been so valuable for the member libraries and getting information out to our own constituencies.
Yeah, just to pile on, we appreciate your leadership internally to the board, internally to staff, and then externally to Rails at large.
You go, girl.
You know, like we didn't just pull that number out of the hat. It's the 2.27 COLA plus.
We're all very concerned about making sure that we were keeping you on the salary scale at a level that your performance and your tenure deserve.
I am so grateful for the opportunity to work here at Rails. It is a dream job. And it's very exciting to get to work with such a supportive board. You all lead and innovate and do so much to share, you know, your passion for libraries with the membership. And just excited to get to spend another year with all. It's great.
I'd like to speak for staff that's to say, Monica is a great mentor. She is a great leader, but she's also someone who just appreciates her staff so much. And it's really, I know. That's why I don't talk in public.
There's a record now.
She really has been awesome.
I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it, and I'm kind of circling back. This has been a pleasant discussion, and this is another reason why you should have library people on trustee boards, because I just came from a situation where we went to the nail. I said one thing, she said another. Somebody that just had it in their mind, a certain number, and she wasn't gonna move. And I reminded, look at these accomplishments, the personality, everything. There's not been one negative thing. So I just appreciate this conversation we've had because it's been peaceful. It was fair. And everybody was left with their dignity.
Renee.
Oh, I was criticized. Discussion. Gwen and I will have a simple discussion with Monica in regards to her performance, obviously with the results. There's nothing else to add. Thank you. Huh? She's got me puzzled there. Thank you all for your attendance. Have a nice weekend. I adjourn this meeting at 3:36. You guys have a really good weekend.